Hey, hi, hello. My name is dis.cat. This is Project Hardcover, where we're letting books be the escape. I'm a tough tootin' baby who can dance like a man. I can shake a my fanny, I can shake in my can. I'm a tough tootin' baby, I'ma punch all your buns. Punch all your buns, I'ma punch all your buns. If you're an evil witch, I will punch you for fun. I'm wearing the shirt, people. 'Twas customary. But anywho, hi y'all! So today I decided that I was going to embark in a new series. I was over on Reagan from Peru's Projects channel, and I was checking out her Reagan Recommends videos. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm constantly recommending books to people. I should probably do that on my channel. That might be a good idea. So, bada bing, here we are. This is a new series that I am going to be entitling Project Insert whatever I'm recommending here. You know, as a way for me to, involve my channel name somehow. Today's video is going to be Project Historical Fiction. I've read quite a few historical fiction books this year, and they've all been just really, really great. So I'd like to share these gems that I've come across this year with you guys. So with that being said, let's get started. This first recommendation should probably not come as a surprise to any of you. We all know how in love with this man I am and how much I just worship the ground that he walks on. And frankly, any historical fiction list of great books that doesn't have this title on it, well, in my opinion, it's just not complete. And that book is, of course, The Book Thief by my man, Marcus Zusak. This book is not only one of the best historical fiction books I've ever read in my life ever, it is one of the best books, period, I've ever read in my life ever. The way that the story is narrated is beautiful and completely and utterly unique. The story is heartfelt and heartbreaking and just so amazing. I'm trying to find words, people. This book centers around a girl who lives in war-torn Nazi Germany named Liesel. Though the story is narrated by death. If that doesn't intrigue you, I don't know what will. Basically, the story follows Liesel's life, her trying to get by day to day in Nazi-occupied Germany, and trying to deal with, all of the things that kids go through growing up, just, with the added bonus of having Nazis be everywhere. Amazing book, amazing author. This list it couldn't exist without it. The next book on this list is another World War II era-centered book, and it is Annexed by Sharon Doger. This book really captured my attention. I mean, I'm sure that most people nowadays have read Anne Frank's diary and know about Peter Van Pels, but is the version of Peter Van Pels that Anne Frank wrote about in her diary the real one? Because of course, diaries are subjective. Just because Anne Frank said that Peter was this way doesn't necessarily mean that he actually was. So the idea of getting a book that was from Peter's point of view, the way that Peter saw things and how Peter felt about Anne, really intrigued me. No, this is not an actual account by Peter Van Pels, but I still thought that it was an incredibly interesting idea to take this character that really the only thing we know about him is from what a girl's diary says, and try and give him a chance to speak for himself. And that's basically what this book is about. It's all about Peter's life in the annex with the Franks and with his parents, all from his point of view. It was really insightful. It was, of course, extremely emotionally moving and touching and heartbreaking, as any story about these families is bound to be. But it was still just a really, really great read, and I am really, really glad that I picked this up. This next book that I have to recommend to you guys was actually one of the very few impulse buys I've ever made in my life, and it's probably one of the best ones. And that book is The Hangman's Daughter by Oliver Pocher. And yes, I am sure that that's not right, but I have yet to have a viewer take pity on me and tell me the actual pronunciation of his last name.
This book is a murder, mystery, thriller kind of thing, which really isn't my thing. Like, take the way that I feel about sci-fi and, like, multiply it by 10, and that's pretty much how you get, you know, the idea of my feelings on murder mysteries. They, shockingly, just don't interest me. They don't thrill me at all. So often when I read them, I feel like I already know what's going to happen, so I don't care for them. So I don't really know what possessed me to pick this up. I just did. And I'm really glad I did, because it was really, really good. There's a whole bunch of different points of view. All of the characters are very complex and thought out with their own voice, and there's just a lot of elements to this book. It's not just murder mystery or thriller. There's some romance involved, and then there's a little bit of paranormal stuff in it, I guess you could say. They talk about witches, so there's some of that. There's also action and snark, and it's really good. So basically this story takes place during Renaissance era. I'm pretty sure it's Renaissance era. Where is it? Bulgaria? Yeah, I think it's Bulgaria. Yeah, Bulgaria. We're gonna go with that. So it takes place during Renaissance era in Bulgaria, and it centers around the town's Hangman, who is Jacob Kiesel. I think that's how you say his name. I'm not so great with the names in this. But pretty sure it's Jacob Kiesel and his family, and he's trying to save this old woman who brought his children into the world. She's the midwife who brought his children into the world, who he believes has been wrongfully accused of murder and witchcraft. Again, there's just a lot of point of views and a lot of really great elements to the story that make it so much fun, and I definitely recommend picking this up. And if you do pick this up, I totally recommend picking up the illustrated edition. The illustrations in this are just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The next two books that I'm going to recommend are also World War II era-based books. I've mentioned on this channel before that the World War II era just really interested me. There's just a whole lot of different points of view that you can work with, and all different kinds of events that you can base your stories off of. It was a really interesting, if albeit very heartbreaking and terrible time in history, but it's just really, really interesting to read about. But anywho, these two books that I'm going to recommend are actually part, I believe it's a duology. I believe there's only two. And the first book in the duology is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wayne. And then the second / companion novel, Rose Under Fire. So yes, this is a duology. I think of companion novels. Pretty sure. I've read both of them, and pretty sure you could read Rose Under Fire without having read Codename Verity, and you'd understand just about everything that's going on. But of course I always do recommend that everyone read everything in a series just to get the full experience. Anyway, Codename Verity centers around two female best friends. One of them is a pilot with the British Air Force, and one of them is a British undercover type thing. I'm not exactly sure what you would call her, but she basically did like undercover co-ops type stuff during World War II. Follows the story of their friendship and of what happens when one of these girls gets captured by enemy forces. This book was really interesting, and the relationship between these two girls was just phenomenal. I loved both of these ladies. The only problem I really had with this book is there is a lot of technical terms and jargon in this book. A lot of stuff about planes and about flying that kind of made it hard to follow, but other than that, this book was just really, really beautiful. Also, it won the Prince Honor, so we all know what that means in terms of how much I liked it. And then Rose Under Fire is the sequel companion novel. Really, I would consider it a companion novel. Really, only one character from Codename Verity is in this book, and you don't really need to have read Codename Verity to understand what's going on in her life in this one, but anywho, this book also follows a pilot for the British Air Force. Unfortunately, this one crashes and ends up in a German concentration camp. The book tells her story and the story of the women that she comes to befriend in the concentration camp, and of their life while they're there and the life that they have after they leave, and it's just painfully, painfully beautiful. So many things that I feel are not talked about enough in World War II era books are discussed in here, and it was just, I want to say it was wonderful to see, you know, even though it was a really dark topic, but it was still nice to see in the book because it isn't discussed really in a lot of other, you know, young adult fiction or any fiction that I've read about Holocaust, World War II centered books. So it was nice to see it have recognition, and nice to see that possibly teenagers can learn more about this horrific stuff. I don't know if that made any sense. I hope it did. I'm not a bad person, I swear. And if we're speaking of preference as to which book I liked more, I definitely liked Rose Under Fire more. There still was the jargon and pilot technical terms and all that stuff, but there wasn't as much, and I felt like I could relate to these characters a whole lot more. So yes, I definitely preferred Rose Under Fire, but Codename Verity was still very good. And the last book that I'm going to recommend has quickly become one of my all-time favorite books. It is definitely my favorite book that I have read so far this year, and that book is Maggot Moon by Sally Gardner. Now, it is a little sketchy to call this historical fiction because it is kind of set in an alternate universe, but in my defense, in this alternate universe, the book takes place in 1953. And there are a whole lot of historical aspects and elements to it, so I'm lumping it in with historical fiction. This book is just so beautifully, beautifully arranged. The narration is extremely unique, incredibly addicting, and just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. These characters are beautiful. Especially the relationships between these characters is unlike anything I've ever seen before, and it's just so painfully gorgeous. I just love this book. I don't want to say too much about this book because I do believe that going into it completely blind is just the best possible way to experience it in all of its wondrous majesty, but I will give you a little bit of that background. The story is about Standish Treadwell and his best friend Hector, who live again in an alternate kind of universe that is currently in the middle of the year 1953, and their home country, which is mostly referred to in the novel as the homeland, is about to put the first man on the moon. Not gonna give you any more info than that, because seriously, people going into this completely blind is just the absolute best way to experience this. It's just, trust me, it is ungodly beautiful. You will not regret reading this, I swear. So that's it for today's project, which, again, was historical fiction. I hope that I managed to interest you guys in some of these titles. Seriously, these books are some of the best that I've read this year, and I'm super, super excited about them. I'm super excited to talk to people about them, so if you guys have read any of these books and want to talk to me about them, please do so down below. Also, if you guys have any suggestions for genres that you want me to recommend, leave those down below too. As always, thanks you guys for watching. I will see you next time, and remember, books are the escape.